And welcome to another hour of Gate City Chronicles, the weekly magazine. Let me try that again. How's that? Okay. And welcome to another hour of Gate City Chronicles, the weekly magazine located here in the city of Nashua. I'm Kevin Avard, your host, and I have a special guest with me today, Representative Mark Warden. Mark, what town are you from?
I live in Goffstown.
Oh, in Goffstown. Okay, so a neighbor.
Yeah.
So you're a freshman representative?
That's right. Like yourself, this is our first term, so we're no longer really a freshman because we're in our second year now of a 2-year biennial term.
Oh, that's right. Oh, interesting. All right.
So we got the freshman jitters all shaken off and ready to go out there and do some good for the people of New Hampshire.
Are we doing good?
I like to think so.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So what are you learning through the, what did you learn for the first session?
A number of things, of course. One of the main things is when we talk about doing good, in many cases, that's just stopping a lot of the bad stuff that tries to sneak through.
Right.
There are nearly 800 bills each year. We had 800 last year, about 800 plus this year. And a lot of those are silly. Some of them, most of them are unnecessary, really.
Right.
Many of them increase the size, scope, and power of the state. So those are the ones we want to stop cold.
Right.
And I feel that's what we can be really effective doing, is stopping some of the bad legislation from seeing the light of day.
So I hear a buzzword all the time. It's this whole thing of free staters and tea parties. Maybe you can help me out with some of these definitions. Let's talk about free staters. What is a free stater?
Great. I appreciate the question because we're starting to see the people on the left and the liberals out there bad-mouthing free staters, but using it as an epithet and saying they're extremists and this sort of thing. So let's set the record straight. First of all, the Tea Party is a big national movement. And when people say they're part of the Tea Party, that's kind of vague. And I think in general it means they want smaller government. They're fed up with higher taxes, high regulations. And a lot of the Tea Party people are focused on national or federal issues.
Right.
Whereas I think here in New Hampshire, we'd rather just deal with the local and the state issues where we can have the most impact.
Okay. So when you're hearing the media, and that's where you hear the negatives with the Tea Parties, whether either in Congress, the Tea Parties are getting in the way of certain legislation. It makes them out to be a rogue corporation or something like that, but it's nothing like that.
No, it's nothing like that. It's just the people speaking, and they're fed up, and they want to be heard, and they want the politicians to listen and hear that they're disgruntled with the way things have been going. Mm-hmm. I mean, more warfare, higher taxes, more regulation. We have a terrible economy, real estate prices going down, unemployment going up, and so people know that government is not the answer. It's not the solution to the problems. But taking you back to your original question, the other group is free staters.
Right.
We hear these people say, okay, Republicans are they're free staters or Tea Partiers or extremists or conservatives. All these labels are being thrown out there. Right. And free stater is really a compliment to a lot of people. It's kind of short for a participant of the Free State Project, which is a really fascinating concept, and it's an ongoing geopolitical movement in which hundreds of liberty-loving, freedom-loving folks are moving to the state of New Hampshire. So it's really exciting. We have a lot of very enterprising and productive and community-oriented people that have moved here over the last few years to take advantage of the New Hampshire advantage, right? What you and I love about being in New Hampshire, which is low taxes, no state income tax, no sales tax, and of course the natural beauty that surrounds us.
Right. Well, you'd mentioned the real estate market, and I understand you're in the real estate market.
Right. I'm a real estate agent based in the Manchester area, cover most of southern New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. And actually, I've been fairly active, fairly busy lately. Of course, a lot of these deals are foreclosures, short sales, people in distress, people that are upside down with their properties, but there's always activity.
Now, are you a real estate agent, or do you help with people that are doing what aspect are you involved with?
It's a little bit of both. I am a real estate agent licensed by the state, and I deal almost exclusively with residential transactions.
Oh, interesting.
And sometimes those are multifamily investment properties, vacation homes, condos, capes, whatever you want, land, just raw land. I do help people out as a volunteer for people trying to find rentals. Oh, okay. But I don't get paid much for that. It's really as a help to particularly people that are relocating here. I deal with a lot of relocations.
A lot of free staters.
Yeah, free staters, they're great clientele for me, right? They want somebody who speaks the same language.
Right.
That speaks the liberty angle to things. That understands the Constitution.
Right.
Understands limited government, lower taxes. So they're going to come to me and say, hey, Mark, where can I grow things in my backyard? Where can I have chickens, for example?
Right.
Maybe I want to shoot on my own property.
I know that Sean McGinnis here locally in Nashua, he has chickens. It's
right in the city?
Yeah, I went to visit him, and he said, hey, I saw a chicken in his yard, and I'm thinking, this is Nashua. Where would you have a chicken in your yard? And he loves his chickens. I just thought that was it. That was rather interesting.
You should ask him to bring you a dozen sometime, because those eggs are good, really good tasting from free-range, naturally fed, hormone-free eggs.
Right, exactly.
In fact, when you host John Burt, when you and John Burt work on the show together in the future, he also raises chickens, and I get a dozen from him. And there's a label on his little carton that says, these are hormone-free and stress-free eggs.
I love my chickens.
Yeah.
So what is the name of the real estate company that you own? Or
I'm not the broker. There's a broker, and it's called Silver Family Real Estate.
Silver, okay.
But people can go to my website, which is porcupinerealtor.com.
Okay.
And see some information there, do a search for what's available out there, and see how I can help them. But basically, it's people that are interested in having a nice place to live, feeling comfortable, maybe a pure investment. I'm happy to help them.
Yeah. I like to give you folks a plug on your businesses, because I know that you only get $100 a year. Mm-hmm. And the state reps really spend a lot of time up there, and the dedicated ones who are wanting to make a difference, they still have to make a living on the side. And so it's if some of my listeners, are in the market for real estate, please contact somebody who's serving in the Capitol. I just think I appreciate your dedication. Mm. I know that you had mentioned the Constitution, and I think it escapes a lot of the local people that there are two constitutions that we have. We have our federal Constitution, and we also have a state Constitution. Mm-hmm. And both impact us. And can you talk a little bit about the Constitution? What are some of the things that may be affecting the citizens of New Hampshire? Yeah,
I'm not a total historian, but the New Hampshire Constitution predated the United States Constitution by about 5 years. So this was ratified in 1784. And a lot of the same elements that you find in the Constitution of the United States of America are found here. So they were looking to a lot of the things we have in the New Hampshire Constitution that are great, like the pursuit of happiness, the inherent natural rights that are sort of God-given and natural rights. The government doesn't give to you, and they can't take them away. And among those include the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or as we say here, seeking and enjoying happiness.
Now, you mentioned natural rights. Some people look at that and say, well, what are you talking about? What are natural rights? It seems to be a buzzword that I'm hearing even more and more, because we have natural rights.
Right. And
they are a law, or our laws are based upon natural rights. Right? I mean, how does...
Well, you'd like to think so, and I think the Constitution enshrines natural rights as being those that are unalterable and cannot be infringed by man-made law. Mm-hmm. And again, the right to life, right to happiness, right to pursue your own interests without having to beg for permission at every turn. Unfortunately, of course, the myriad laws, the thousands that we have on the books these days, are infringed on many of the natural rights, and it's our job and our duty now as conservative, liberty-loving state reps to kind of push back and remove some of those infringements that we've had over the last number of years and decades.
Yeah, one of the things that I've discovered, in whether it's in caucus or just in general, New Hampshire is a very regulated state. Mm-hmm. And these regulations, they've gotten in either through lobbyists or certain corporations have said, listen, we want protection from competition.
From competition, that's right.
And so they get their people out to say, listen, these people are trying to come after your job, so we're going to create this bill. And then the state reps get lobbied, the Senate gets lobbied, the courts everybody gets lobbied. And all of a sudden we have this new wonderful law which says you cannot do this, or if you're going to do this, you have to do this. And that's going to protect these jobs. But at the same time, that's going to exclude these people over here. And that takes away the New Hampshire advantage. And so I noticed we have like 800 bills up there, or is it 800 or 900 bills this year?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Now, one would draw a conclusion that that might be, oh my God, what are they doing? Are they making more regulations?
In the past, that's been the case. There have been more regulations, more taxes, more government control of everything we do. However, this is different. This year's freshman, now sophomore class is different in the way they approach things in principle and in action. In fact, many of these 800 laws are repealing existing statutes. So that's a beautiful thing. The Democrats, when they controlled the House and the legislature would the previous 4 years prior to 2011, enacted something like 100 new fees and taxes and passed a lot of new laws, increased the budget by 24%, the state spending budget. So we're trying to little by little repeal some of those things and to live up to the live free or die motto that adorns every one of our license plates.
Yeah, speaking of live free or die, you know, it's hard when you're up there, and you got to make some tough decisions. And I'm sure you've had to make a few tough decisions. You see 2,000 people out there on the lawn, all saying, you know, don't cut my benefits. How do you deal with that?
Again, I think you have to go back to principle and try to do what's right whenever you can. Look to the Constitution if we have a question about that. And basically realize that we represent the people. We don't represent special interests or associations or certainly anybody in the government. I think we should represent the people that pay all the bills, which are the taxpayers. So that's the first person I look to, and I say, is this person helped or hindered by this new law? And we need to also maintain the separation of powers. What we're seeing a lot in the legislature, and you've seen this in your committee work as well, is that the departments and agencies who are part of the executive branch march in there, and they're always pushing for more laws, more rules, more regulations, because it benefits them, right? They'll couch this expansion of authority in terms of public safety or protecting people, but in reality, another way to look at it, it would be to say that they are really just engaging in job protection, right? The more things that are illegal, the more regulations there are, the more of them are needed to enforce them, to inspect, and to collect fees, and to administrate, and that sort of thing. So I just want people to be free. New Hampshire should be known for being one of the freest states in the country. We already have a good standard of living, and on quality of life issues, we always rank near the top. But a lot of people don't know that we have one of the highest number of licensed professions in the entire country. It's like 148 or something like that. It's 3 times as many as the state of California has.
Yeah, I was talking to an H&R Block representative, and they were talking about some of our tax structures and our regulations in our state. We're way up there.
Yeah,
and one of the things that kills free enterprise is regulation. But it seems that when you use this word deregulation, people get all worried about that. And well, it's all helter-skelter if we don't regulate everything. And how do you deal with that in your committees? When you say, well, this is the Constitution, you know, this says you don't really have to do this. Why do you need 1,600 hours of training to cut hair and only 800 to learn how to fly a plane? That's kind of baffling. I think it was Representative Bowers that was brought that bill about the hair.
He did. He had a great bill that wanted to eliminate merely 28, right? It's just a fraction of the ones we have, but 28 professional licensures, including cosmetology, massage therapists, landscape architects, right? Some of these things really don't need to be licensed. They can be certified or registered, but Spec Bowers, he's a representative from, I believe, Sunapee. His bill simply wanted to change it so that these licenses would now be voluntary.
Right.
So if you feel in your business that you will get more customers or more satisfied customers if you are licensed, then go for it. You continue to get your license. But if I'm a startup, if I'm brand new, like a guy just out of high school wants to start his own business, doesn't have the money to go to 1,400 hours of training, well, he ought to be able to start up his own business, and the free market will always prevail.
Right.
The market forces know way better than a bunch of bureaucrats or people like you and me sitting up there in a committee hearing, listening to 20 minutes of testimony and then putting a law in place, right? That doesn't work. But millions of different actors, I'm speaking in economic terms now, but actors in the economic forces in the free market will ultimately give a better product, produce better service at a lower cost.
Now, you caucus with Liberty people. Can you talk a little bit about that? Is it the Liberty Alliance? What is it, the New Hampshire?
There are a couple of things. First of all, I was real active with the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance, which is an all-volunteer, nonprofit organization just here in New Hampshire that specializes in advancing pro-liberty legislation and fighting anti-liberty legislation. The way they do that is through a slew of volunteers. They have 30, 40, 50 volunteers that work out of their homes and also up the State House to review the bills. And they have a really neat system of bill review where they'll look at the 800 bills we talked about, the legislation that comes through each year.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but somebody's got to do it.
Right.
So we need these people to be vigilant. Right?
Right.
The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. And we're going to be there. What they do at NHLA, which is nhliberty.org, New Hampshire Liberty, is Liberty Alliance, is to review the bills and rate them on a scale of pro-liberty or anti-liberty. And the ones that hit a high number or a really low number are set up with sort of an alert system, and then the volunteers may come in to testify for or against a certain piece of legislation. Or maybe they'll send out an email blast to all the members around the state, hundreds of members, to contact their legislators and point out that, hey, if you got a bad bill coming up before your committee, it should be amended or it should be killed or whatever the story is. And you know that it's impossible for us to read all the bills. It's all we can do, just keep up with our own committee, right? There are about 24 committees in the House.
Exactly.
And your viewers may not know all this, but it's just an amazing amount of information. So it's all we can do to keep up with our own committee's work. Right. I don't know anything about your committee. You don't know anything about criminal justice and public safety. So these volunteers are out there helping to safeguard New Hampshire's tradition of liberty.
Interesting, right? Well, it seems one slipped by the books a few years back. One of my pet peeves that I'm constantly banging the pulpit about, if you will, or the bully or the well. In 1978, there was an amendment to our Constitution, and it's something that just seemed to slip by the books, where it gives the courts the ability to make law. And I find that when the courts can make laws which nullify what the legislature does, it creates a big bully. And I'm really I wish this was around back then, the Liberty Alliance. Second part, Article 73A. I know you have your Constitution right there, but there's a part where it says that the Supreme Court Justice will be the administrator of the courts and will make rules, and such rules will become promulgated law. So that is probably, in that's the perfect storm in my mind. How did somebody get that passed in previous legislators? We're not responsible for that, but I know that's going to be one of the pieces that'll be coming up soon. One of the problems that I see that with some of these legislations that are coming out, you got 800 bills. There's a consequence to every bill. There's foreseen consequences, and there's unforeseen consequences. And even working with the Democrats on the other side and having a discussion about unforeseen consequences. Have you brought up any bills that you thought, oh my God, if this actually gets in, I didn't think about that? Or
this happens all the time. You talk about the unintended consequences, and that's the first thing every one of us as a legislator needs to look at when we see proposed bills. Yes, it happens all the time. There have been a number of bills this year and last year that had those sort of problems. And we try to vet those and flesh them out during committee meetings and hearings and subcommittees. But we can never think of everything. 10 or 12 people in a room, right? You really need a lot of input from more people. So I think the system we have works pretty well because first you have to get it out of committee, it's hashed out, then it goes to the House, and it has to go over the Senate, and often these bills are amended in the Senate, then the governor has a veto. So this sort of checks and balances system works out pretty well on average. But you're right, what we're seeing is an erosion of the separation of powers doctrine,
Right.
which is one of the most important aspects of our justice system and our political system in the United States. And you see it at the federal level, certainly, like the president making appointments when the Senate is unadjourned or that sort of thing. But we see it here too with the executive departments having a lot of influence in the legislative branch. But most people whom we're sent there to represent are busy working, taking care of their families, right? They're too busy. They can't take the day off to come speak before the legislature, but all these lobbyists and department heads are getting paid to be there.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that article that I pointed out, Article 73A in our Constitution, it's there. It's part of the Constitution. Somebody from somewhere, I don't know the history on it, got it in there. But that means that the justice system can legislate from the bench.
Mm-hmm. That's dangerous.
So when somebody goes to court, and we had a recent fight on this at the House, but when somebody goes to the courts and they have all this documented material and they present it to the courts, and the court says, you know what, we just made up a rule. And this rule says that we don't have to look at your evidence.
Right.
And so we're going to go with this information that we generated from some of our workers. We don't have to listen to your evidence. That seems to be abuse of power, especially if you have evidence. I'm not trying to lead the question, but I'm really worried about that myself as a legislator. And the Liberty people seem to be zoning in on things like this because once the liberties are gone, how do you get them back?
Right. It's very difficult, and we see that every day, that once these things are in place, once the statutes are in place, once agencies and departments have promulgated these regulations and rules that basically have the force and effect of law, it's nearly impossible to reverse them. We have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
I encourage people to keep voting Republican, encourage the libertarian and liberty-minded people you know to run, the people that truly believe in constitutional limitations on government and low taxes. Encourage them, have them call me or send me an email if people are interested and want to know more about it. Kevin can do the same thing. We'll help train people. I like to help identify, recruit, and train folks to run for state office or local office. I'm on the planning board in Goffstown, and there are a number of things people can do to really help promote more of a free market, constitutionally based, freedom-oriented state and local government.
Now, who's this Don Gorman guy? I've heard of him.
Yeah, Don's a great guy. He's been sort of a mentor to us that have formed a group at the state legislature called the Natural Rights Council.
Okay.
It's a group of very serious, principled legislators. You're a member, I'm a member. And what we do is we look at every bill and look at it to see, is it constitutional? How much does it cost? Is it necessary?
Right.
Right? What's the demonstrated need? If it doesn't have a demonstrated need out there, let's get rid of it. We don't need more laws on the books.
Exactly.
And the question you brought up earlier, which is, what are the unintended consequences? Every bill has them. We need to try to think multiple layers deep on how this is going to affect the towns, the taxpayers, the agencies. And if we don't need it, let's stop it before it gets started.
Interesting. Now, I noticed that the natural rights people and the people that Don's actually started this group, I believe.
Yeah, we invited Don to the founding meeting, and the reason for it is Don is a very principled guy. He's out of Deerfield. He's a former state rep back in, I believe, the 80s. He served a couple terms, and he's a great guy. He's also a good trainer. He's an NRA instructor, and he likes to be a teacher and a coach. So he offered to help us out, and a lot of us were freshmen that were part of this Natural Rights Council. By the way, the Natural Rights name comes from the Constitution, and let's see here, Part First, which is the Bill of Rights. The New Hampshire Constitution has two parts, 1 and 2. And the first part is kind of like the Bill of Rights. And Article 2, Part 1 is natural rights. All men have certain natural, essential, and inherent rights, among which are the enjoying and defending life and liberty, acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, and, in a word, of seeking and obtaining happiness. So, and it goes on a little bit more, but that's the that's what we talked about at the beginning of the show, was natural rights, and we thought that was a great description of what we were there, is to really only work on legislation that doesn't strip anybody of his rights, that complies with what our mission there is, to obey and defend the Constitution of New Hampshire.
So this isn't a country club get-together?
Yeah, on $100 a year, we can't play much golf or drive around in Cadillacs, so no. This is people who are very principled, who have dedicated a lot of their time and a good portion of their life to doing this. You and I are both entrepreneurs, and let's say self-employed. If I didn't do the real estate thing, which allows me the flexibility, I wouldn't be able to do this. Half the State House is made up of retired folks who have the time, but it takes 2 to 3 days a week from January through March. April through June, it's a little bit less, maybe a couple days a week, but it is very time-consuming. It's a lot of energy. It's like being in college, right? We're all earning our master's degree in political science here.
Right.
Because we have to go home at night, read bills. It's like studying for the next day's hearings. You have to be prepared if you want to be effective.
And then you have to listen to both positive and negative from the constituents.
Right.
You have to worry about the media and their spin on things, and you know, looking in the mirror and saying, did I give it my best?
Right.
You know, I wanted to dispel that idea that it's a country club up there, and when people start criticizing, even on both sides, it doesn't matter to me. The people that are going up there are really dedicated to doing. They got a mission, you know, and my mission is to live in a free state, you know, in a free country, to be able to speak my mind, to be able to live, to be able to go out and earn my living without being so hammered by the nanny state. By the government. We are still a free country while we have it.
We only have to look to the nanny state places like Massachusetts to the south, or California, wallowing in tens of billions of dollars of debt because they try to be something for everybody. And when you do that, you end up being nothing for everybody, because you got to pay the bills, and the government is really sort of a parasite on the productive economy. And once the parasite gets larger than the host, they all die. And that's where we're going. That's where we're headed with state budgets around the country, with the United States, largesse. And thank goodness for people like you and others that are there to turn the tide, turn things around here in New Hampshire.
Well, we're going to be closing out this show soon, so I just want to leave some closing thoughts as far as what are some of the things that you want the people of New Hampshire to know, either about what to look forward into the future, how to get involved maybe, and what's going on.
Well, if we can wrap it up, let's say that New Hampshire is a great place to be. We have the most accessible legislature in the country, right? 400 state reps. People are represented to the tune of about 3,300 voters, or 3,300 people per rep. So you see the guy in the grocery store, you see him at the gas station. Call him up, send him an email, let him know what's on your mind. Make sure that we are representing our constituents. And if you want to try it yourself, we're happy to have you, especially if you like some of the things we've talked about during this last hour. Come on up and join us. It's a great experience. It's a chance to see how sausage is made, as they say, about the lawmaking process. But if you are principled and you have strong beliefs in doing the right thing, it's a great place to have an impact.
You don't have to be a lawyer, right?
Nope.
You don't have to be a professor.
We are a true citizens legislature in New Hampshire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that some people think, well, you know, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a professor, I'm not a teacher, I'm just a mechanic. I'm just a teacher, or I'm just a carpet cleaner. I work in a library. You have every right to go up there yourself and run and represent your people. And I think that is really what's beautiful about this. I mean, you don't get a lot of pay, obviously.
No, but if you have an independent spirit and you believe in the idea of self-reliance, limited government, more economic and personal freedom, then you'll make a good legislator. Come join us.
Oh, excellent. I really want to thank you for coming and taking your time to come here. Is there anything else that you want to get off the table right now before? I mean, we could talk politics all night.
Yeah, we could. This is a lot of fun. We do it all day, too. But no, I just wrap up. And again, thanks for the plug for PorcupineRealtor.com, the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance at nhliberty.org. It's a great organization. We encourage people to get active. And
how can people reach you if they want to talk to you about something that's happened in the Capitol?
Best thing to do is send an email, and that's mark@porcupinerealtor.com, Mark with a K, and most people know how to spell porcupine. Or you can find it.
I use spell check.
It's porcupine, not porcupine. But,
okay.
I'd love to hear from them.
All right, wonderful. And thanks again for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the Capitol.
Keep up the good work.
All right, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, we're going to close out this hour, and thanks to our sponsors of the show, Aardvark Clean and Clean and National Steam Cleaning. And we want to thank Representative Mark Warden for coming on the show. And until next week, remember, it's your city. All right. Take care.